Hi guys, my name is Pawan and welcome to my YouTube channel buildingyourdreams.com. So in this portion we'll be just completing about the nature and significance of management, and this is part 3. So in case if you have not watched part 1 and part 2, I've just provided the link below in the description. Kindly just watch it and come back to the part 3. So now let's get started. So in the before portion we have been completed the most of the major aspects of what is coordination, what are the different features of it. We also completed about what is the definition of management, how management concept is functioning, what are the objectives of management, and what are the importance of management. So now in this portion we are going to complete about the functions of management. So functions of management, this is basically asked for an 8 marks question. It's a constantly repeated 8 marks question. They may ask you what are the functions of management, or management is a series of continuous interrelated functions. So both are similar question. Which are the different types of management of functions, or management is a series of interrelated functions? Comment on it. This may be the question. So now for that, the answer is basically for an 8 marks question. As I said, you always, there's a pattern of writing. First you're supposed to write an introduction. So once this question is asked, what is functions of management? Just write an introduction. What is management concept? Just mention the same definition which you have studied in the part 1. It's like the management concept. It is a process of planning, organizing, directing, staffing, and controlling, in which enterprises efficiently and effectively achieve the goal of the firm. So you are supposed to write that portion in the introduction, and you may start with your answer, then just your last line of conclusion. That's more than enough. So now let's get started about what is planning. Planning, so once you start writing, just mention that what is planning. The first thing is, the planning is the first and the basic step of the functions of management. It is the first and basic step of functions of management. Planning, it is basically an action which tells you how your firm should entirely run, and it also tells you how your goal should work in such a manner to achieve the goal of the firm. So this is known as planning. And organizing, it is a process in which it tells you a proper idea how to organize and how to put forward your physical, financial, and human resources to the maximum advantage as possible for the effective and proper utilization of the resources. Okay, so now we could complete now what is planning and organizing. So organizing, it is a process of a proper allocation of physical, financial, and human resources. Physical, financial, and human resources to the maximum advantages as possible, to the effectiveness and efficient manner. Next point is as about the director. So directing. So before moving on towards the directing, let's complete the staffing, because staffing plays a very little more important role. Staffing, it is a process of management which basically tells you selecting the right people for the right job. So when you're selecting a right person for the right job, what happens? He shows his more amount of interest on it. As a result of it, his output also would be more. So this creates a huge amount of impact for our company. Thus our profits can be improved because of this. Okay, so staffing, it is a process of what did we discuss? Selecting the right people for the right job. Selecting the right people for the right job for the effective and the proper utilization of the firm. So staffing, we can also have manpower planning, remuneration, recruitment. So all these functions comes under the staffing. So directing is basically that once you are allocating this responsibility, and so you're supposed to encourage him in the terms of leadership, communication, delegation. So these are the different factors where you're supposed to highlight him, and we're supposed to give more importance. So such a result of this is hidden talents can come out of it. So next one is controlling. So controlling in any firm is very much important. Why? Because recently the controlling factor, if you don't have it does not function in a firm, then it can result into huge amount of problems, right? So there must be a proper controlling system in the firm. In terms of establishment of standard, the first point is you're supposed to mention that it is an establishment of standard, establishment of your product. Basically it means that establishment of your product, then measurement of actual preferences, and next one is you're taking basically that an action. So measurement of actual preferences and establishment of standard is basically very important in a firm. So once you're writing about the controlling, it is basically a process of management in which there must be a proper functioning of controlling among the members, right? Then only it can function. So first one is establishment of standard, measurement of actual preferences, taking corrective actions. The third one is taking corrective action. You're taking correct steps, step by step, you are evaluating it and you're functioning it. So this point is very important, taking corrective action. And this one is completion of actual performances. You're completing that particular task. What are we doing? We are completing that particular task and then we are evaluating, establishing a sense of standard. Again, we are establishing a sense of standard. After that, we are evaluating. So for example, I've completed a particular type of project. So after that, what am I doing? I'm checking, cross-checking, did I do any type of mistake? How should I correct myself from not making the same mistake next time? So this controlling plays a very important role, factor in this functions of management. So starting with, we completed what is planning, then we completed what is organizing, then we completed what is directing, then staffing and controlling. And then you may just give a proper line of conclusion. Conclusion, you may also write the definitions of management and just conclude it. Okay. So if your first portion which we have discussed over here is planning, functions of management: planning, organizing, directing, staffing and controlling. And the next one is, next question, this is basically asked repeated question for 8 marks. So this is also an 8 marks question, this is also an 8 marks question. So this is an most repeated questions which is asked for the exams. So now let's get started. So the question here is like, state or justify your statement that management is art and management is of science. So once if that question is asked, you're supposed to mention deeply what is management of art, what is management of science, and which are the basic features, and you're supposed to explain regarding it. So now let's get started regarding the second question. So this is the second question, and this is also most commonly repeated question in most of the exams. Management of art and management of science. So management of science, what is science basically? You have to mention that science, it is a systematized body of knowledge. What is it? It is a body of knowledge, and the basic features of science include, it is a systematized body of knowledge. The first point you may just mention that, systematized body of knowledge. And the second point is principle based on experimentation. Third one is universal validity. It is universally applicable. And then it tells you about the causes and effect relationship. It tells you about the causes and effect relationship. The first one is systematized body of knowledge. So as I said you in the definition itself, what is science? Science, it is a systematized body of knowledge that explains what? The general truth. So it is a systematized body of knowledge. Second one is, it is principle based on experimentation. What is principle based on experimentation? The principle based on experimentation basically means that this has been taken time after the observation and after various other processes. This management functions has been originated from the science. Okay, so it's basically the principle based on experimentation. After the observation, after the repeated experiments, they have concluded it. And the third one is universal validity. What is universal validity? It is basically applicable for social, political and economic. It's applicable for all these 3 factors. So once it is applicable for all these 3 factors, we can just say it as it is an universal validity. We discussed the same concept even in the part 2. And then the fourth point is cause and effect relationship. So causes and effect relationship, for example, you're conducting an experiment, you mention it. What are its causes, what are its effects, and what are its solutions, right? What are its causes, what are its effects, and what are your solutions? Similar way in the management, each function of management, it tells you what are its causes. If you just take so and so point or so and so, if you're implementing in your company, it tells you what are your causes, what will be your effects, and what are your proper solutions. So all these things, by this we can conclude that management is of science. So they can just ask the question that what is management of science. If it is asked for 4 marks or 2 marks, you're supposed to mention all these points. If it's asked for 2 marks, just give 2 points, and if it's asked for 4 marks, just write management of science, a small, at least 2 lines, and then mention all these 4 points, plus give a small amount of introduction towards it. So in management of science, we completed what is it is a systematized body of knowledge. Second one is it is a principle based on experimentation. And the third one is it is universal validity. And the fourth one is it tells you about the causes and effect relationship. So hence it is a management of science. Next one is management of art. What is management of art? Art itself, it provides you a common definition in your mind that it is something which is related, something which is very skillful and which provides you a personalized application of a skillful knowledge. Personalized application of a skillful knowledge. So art itself in the management plays a very important role. So similar way the art and science have both standard in the firm, plus this art it's little more like it is very skillful and it tells you about the personalized application of the skillful knowledge. So now the first point is existence of the theoretical knowledge. So theoretical knowledge, for example, what are we studying now? Just reading it to complete each levels of gaze of an exams, right? So basically that when you're working in a firm, you are understanding the theoretical knowledge and you are applying it in your firm. That time it plays a huge amount of impact. So that time we can say that it is an existence of theoretical knowledge. You are studying it and you are applying it. So there's a skillful manner over there. So it is an existence of theoretical knowledge. Next one is personalized application. Personalized application is also basically that all the skills application or all other factors, it gives you an overview of different factors over there. And the third one is based on practice and creativity. Based on practice and creativity, it's basically that you're practicing it. So once you practice it, that certain step of management, once you're practicing by a firm, like an entire firm is working towards it, it also improves your creativity. So it's based on your creativity, how you're functioning it, as well as your practice, how well you're practicing it. So a certain set of management principles if I'm just taking and applying it, how well I am practicing it, plus how it is improving my creativity, that also plays a very important role in the skillful manner. So skillful way we can just say that management of art in terms of based on practice and creativity. Practice is basically that your skills can be improved by your practice. Skills can be improved by your practice. And similar way, even your creativity can also be improved in the skillful manner. That is basically an art. That's basically an art. And next one is be perfection through practice. So you get perfection through practice. Perfection through practice is nothing but you become expert. So by the constant amount of practice, what do we achieve? We achieve through perfection. The doctors, the constant amount of practice which make them an excellent in their field, right? Similar way in the manager, in our consumer world or even in the commercial world, once we have a constant amount of practice in our art or our skill, so what happens? We become perfect and we become master in it. So now that's all for today's video. So overall conclusion in the functions of management, this is a constantly repeated 8 marks question. Please do give importance towards it. Functions of management, you can have, which are the different points. We just discussed the first one about the introduction. Then we discussed about the planning, organizing, directing, staffing and controlling. And after that, we discussed like a small amount of conclusion is supposed to give. Then that entire answer, you will get easily 8 marks. And the second question, which is basically asked for 8 marks, is what is management of science? Mention or justify a statement that management of art and science is basically a function of management. So it is basically functioning in terms of proper direction towards a management is functioning in terms of art and science. Even if it is asked to comment on it, you are supposed to mention all these aspects. If it is asked only for management of an art, you are supposed to mention these points. If it is asked only for management of science, you are supposed to mention only these points. And this is basically constantly asked for 8 marks. 4 marks you have for the management of art, and the remaining 4 marks you have it for the management of science. So in management of science, the first point is systematized body of knowledge. What is it? It is basically a systematized body of knowledge. Then principle based on experimentation. Then universal validity. Last point is cause and effect relationship. And then in the management of art, we have the next 4 points is it is an existing of theoretical knowledge. Personalized application is the second point. And the third one is based on practice and creativity. And the last point is perfection through practice. You achieve perfection through the practice. So that's all for today's video. And so now we have completed the entire chapter 1 portion. So now altogether there are totally 3 parts: part 1, part 2 and part 3. The main reason why I have divided this is basically that it will be very easy for you to understand, plus it will be very easy for me to explain each and every point regarding this. So hope to meet you in my next video of the second chapter. So in the principles of management, we'll be studying a little more deeply, and that chapter is going to be a little more easy and far better, and it's the best chapter where you can score easily marks. So now let's meet in the next video. Bye. And if you do like this video, please do like it and subscribe it. So it's basically a motivation towards each amount of us. So now bye. Surely we can meet in next video. Goodbye.